Now we're live. Welcome in, everyone. Sorry we missed last Saturday, but Ignacio, you want to get us started off?
Yeah. Uh, Hello to everyone on here. We're going to start with a quick prayer, real quick. Heavenly Father, we come to you to ask you for guidance, for humility, for love, for grace, for our brothers and sisters here in the community. Please give us the wisdom, the knowledge, the words so we can speak life into the industry. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
All right. So tonight we're going to be talking about, uh, the market, how brokers treat carriers, so forth. Ignacio, you want to start us off with that? Why I pay for this truck wash?
Yeah. Uh, I believe the industry is bigger than life. I believe that the reason why they call us uh, essentials when some crisis arises is because this world, this country, runs by truckers being out on the road. Truckers sacrifice a lot of sleep, a lot of quality time with our loved ones. Uh, Drivers go through adversity with weather. We have to deal with so many individuals that might come across us that are not having a good day. Uh, it's very challenging. It all starts, well, we have an idea of becoming truck drivers, owner operators, or fleet owners. But then once you come up with this idea, maybe you have the wrong information. Maybe you've seen an uncle, a neighbor, and it's just a lot of different variables on why so many come into the trucking industry. Some come for the history of it. Some come because they need money. They heard this tremendous uh, fake news that there's millions to be had real quick, and a lot of us come into it just to figure out if this is something uh, that it is for us. I'll be completely honest. Trucking is not for everyone. If you're an individual that likes to have a safety net for a steady income, weekly or bi-weekly, this might not be for you to be an owner operator. If you want to be a driver, that's fine. There's good companies out there that can be very stable, that can bring food into your table, help you pay for your bills every week. But owner operator is very challenging, is very treacherous. The competition is very high, and it requires a level of wisdom, a level of experience. The other thing is you got to understand that in the trucking industry, if you have a family, you might not have the quality time that you need to spend with your wife, your husband, your kids, with your friends. You're gonna miss out a lot of graduations. You're gonna miss out being there for a loved one that is sick. So there is a lot of variables. So as we dialogue, and I'm pretty sure with these brothers up on top here with a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, we will find out that there is a lifestyle for everyone. There is a company for everyone, and there is an opportunity for everyone depending on what we're looking for. That's what I have to say about the trucking industry as a driver or owner operator or fleet owner.
Mike, you got anything to add before I go?
No, I think he covered it all. There's, not everybody that gets into trucking. It's not made for everybody. Some people can deal with it, some people can't, you know. But this job isn't for just anybody.
My buttons ain't working right. But yeah, I totally agree. And that's exactly why, a lot of truck drivers say, trucking has to be in your blood in order for you to stick into it. And I don't know. So for me, it's about the freedom. The freedom out on the road. A lot of that freedom is getting taken away because of bad actors in the industry, all across the industry. It doesn't matter if you're a carrier, owner, operator, broker, brokerage, factoring company. It doesn't matter. You got bad apples in all parts of the industry, and not even just in the trucking industry, all industries. But it's a matter of how you deal with it and how you go about it, how you look at it, and how you deal with it. And for this topic, the reason why I bring this up is because I've dealt with this when I was running my own authority. I'm in the process of buying the truck again and running under someone else's authority while I'm paying off the truck. And even me running my authority, I've seen this from a few different brokers, not a whole lot, but a few, to where they want to manipulate on the load information, or give you the wrong load information, and then you get to the shipper and you find out they want a different temp, and then the broker doesn't want to pay anymore because for whatever reason. I have no understanding why they want to manipulate it and say that there's no extra cost into it. Well, when you're changing the temp down from a refrigerated load to a frozen load, guess what? There's more wear and tear on that reefer. It's going to use more fuel. The information that the brokers are giving us, that's how we determine our rates when we quote on what we need to do for that load. Would you not agree with that?
Well, yeah,
Definitely.
I
I
think
mean, if it's 100 degrees outside and the broker tells you, oh, you're going to pick up a refrigerated load that's going to be at 60 degrees, the reefer's not going to run that long, on high idle to get it down to 60. But if they wanted it 0 or -10, that thing's going to continuously run majority of the time at a high idle to keep it at minus something when it's 100 freaking degrees outside.
what I have to say about this is when we go into a contract in good faith, it used to be the mentality, and it should be the mentality, that it takes the team to move a load from point A to point B. And even though many claim to got your back and many claim that they belong in your team, my advice to you is to look at everyone as somebody that can hurt you. Unfortunately, that's the reality nowadays. I double check my dispatcher. I double check the broker. I double check the Raycon. I double check the miles. I double check the comment section, because one of the biggest things that I learned, that one small detail can get you holding the bag. So I make sure that I cover myself, because those little details, once you sign the Raycon, And once you pick up this load, and once you get going, it's very, very difficult to renegotiate. So everything stands from the perspective of the load. You got to know what you're looking for. You got to know the weights. You got to know the temperatures. You know, reefer, I did it for 16 years. And by the grace of God, I only had one claim in my 16 years going West Coast, East Coast. And it was for 6 boxes that got ice burn. That's it. But I can tell you honestly, man, I had to jumpstart the reefer. I had to find a 1 gallon container to transfer diesel from my tractor to my trailer, because you're in the middle of nowhere. I had to literally continue working on the reefer myself with batteries, with starters, and it's not fun. I know I had to be a U2 mechanic many times to replace a fuse. Sometimes I had to call somebody in the middle of the night to tell me what this code looks like and give me answers. It's not very easy to be working in reefer and perishable items. It takes a lot of responsibility, a lot of liability. Currently, for what I've seen on the rates, if you're pulling a reefer, it's not fair. Let me tell you why. Because some lanes are paying driving better than reefers. And in a reefer, from my experience, reefers are going to load you over 40,000 pounds most of the time. They're going to load you heavy. You're going to be running on your 70s and 80,000 pounds per load. On the drive-in, a lot of it is household goods. For example, I'm moving appliances for under 15,000 pounds versus reefer 40,000. And also on drive-in, you don't have to spend fuel on reefer, maintenance on reefer. And most importantly, you don't have to have that pressure of checking the temperature through the little door if you have one, or popping the product before you load it, make sure it's on required temperature. You don't have to wait for QA on a Walmart waiting for them to come and make sure that your load is according to the specs by the agent. There's just a lot going on with reefers, and I believe right now the market the way it is not paying enough for what I experienced. And not only that, in reefer, I remember chasing the produce industry along with fruits and product coming from Mexico into the border. Man, sometimes when I showed up to a place, hey, they could easily be 20, 30 trucks waiting for a load, and you're in line. And that was something that I don't miss. A lot of times too, when I got into maybe pulling beef right out of National City or Tyson Foods, man, there was times where they want me to drop my trailer. I didn't know these places. I would drop it. They say, you go to the nearest truck stop and park, and we'll call you. Man, that call came 16, 18, 20 hours early, and I was driving teams. And I'm thinking to myself, man, what in the world am I doing? You know, in this industry, there's there is sayings, and a lot of the sayings have a lot of wisdom behind them. One of the sayings that I'm pretty sure you guys know about is, if the wheels are not turning, you're not making any money. And that's definitely true. And that this industry is killing us, because it's not up to us that we don't want to turn the wheels. It's just that a lot of times the system or the industry, the way it is, they're forcing us to lose a lot of quality time. They're forcing us to lose a lot of this legal time on our clocks. It's just getting ridiculous. Like Chris is saying, I myself, I'm in it for the freedom. I'm not driven by money. I'm not driven by number of trucks. I'm not moved by the amount of chrome that I have, what kind of equipment I have. I'm driven because I like the freedom to say, you know what, if my shipper is not respecting my time, it's not respecting me, if I'm not being treated like a human being, I have the blessing to say, you know what, I don't want to do business with you, and I take off. I only done it 3 times, but that's still very important to me as a human being, as a person that is just trying to do the right thing. And also too, I like to eat. I'm hefty, so I have my places to eat. So another thing that I love about trucking is I have my places where I want to stop and eat, enjoy that hot plate. Those are the reasons that motivate me. But that's what I want to share about the reefer thing. It's super treacherous. A lot. Not only that, but there's also a lot of scams going on with reefers, right? Where reefers, you have to be careful because there's a lot of scams. A lot of these companies want to blame you for the inconsistency of the load itself, the temperatures, the quality of the size, the color of the product. So you have to be careful. And I'm pretty sure these guys that are doing reefer can tell you more about it. But to me, honestly, I'm glad I'm not no longer doing reefer, because when I went to drive in and compare it to reefer, as far as the rates and the responsibility, I think it's so underpaid.
Yeah, it is. But I always get my rate. I won't do it for too much less than what I actually quote the brokers. Um, and let me go a little bit deeper on this load that I did earlier this week. So
There, he's out of
when
your
I
way.
contacted the broker, he actually gave me the load details at 34 degrees. I had to stop at Home Depot to pick up some insulation sheets so that the shipper could build a bulkhead, because there was frozen. Apparently there was frozen, and then, just regular refrigerated, and some dry goods that could be in the refrigerated, be chilled. Um, but at the same time, like I said, the broker told me it was 34 degrees. When I asked about the information on the load, the Raycon showed 34 degrees. And I get to the shipper that was 8 miles away from the Home Depot I had to stop at to get those insulation sheets. And the shipper tells me that no, the reefer's supposed to be pre-cooled to 15 degrees because it's a frozen load. Anything under 20 degrees is frozen. And so I told the broker this, and he wanted to try to hold me responsible for dropping the load. We were going back and forth. I told him, it's going to be $400. It's costing me extra time to pre-cool the trailer. Not only that, during the trip, it's going to make the reefer run even harder because now it's even frozen load because it's under 20 degrees. So it's going to burn more fuel. And plus, it was over 100 degrees out in Colorado. So he didn't want to pay it, which is fine, whatever. I told him, well, if you don't want me doing the load, then, take me off the load. You're going to have to call the shipper and take me off the load. And he tried to put it onto me. trying to make me drop the load, make me look like the bad guy. That's where I had the problem.
Well, you know what? It's always good to drop a load and try to negotiate the relationship with that broker. But some of these brokers, where when they don't have common sense for accountability or responsibility, is best to just leave the load with them, because you know what? Once you're under a load and you're going through all these red flags, you're gonna regret not leaving the load alone. And that one looked like a few red flags there already, you know, especially right now that we're going through a heat wave. It seems like maybe most of the part of the United States, and there's a lot of things that happen, like Mike says, you know, temperature does matter. And if you don't know what you're doing, you can get into a claim real fast. So to me, one of the things when I was working with reefer, the first thing I'll check to see if the pull up the product, count the boxes, but then too, I'll ask, does it have a temp recorder? Man, every time I saw that it had a temp recorder, I had to be on my toes. And this is where we have another joke, right? Like, you can be on your sleeper and there's fireworks, there's music, nothing wakes you up. But as soon as you don't hear the reefer running, man, you get up in a heartbeat with your boxers on. That's because you're so used to making sure your product is running properly at the right temperature. So to me, running reefer under like a heat wave that we're in, if you don't have the proper equipment or if you don't have the proper experience, it's a very good chance you're going to run into a claim pretty soon. But when it was complicated loads like that, I would not touch them, because my record meant a lot. My relationship with my insurance meant a lot. So thank God, like, we made it through like 16 years with no major claims. But I did see a few brothers out there that did struggle, that did have major claims, and it didn't go well for them.
Well, nowadays you're not even allowed on the dock while they're loading, so you can't check nothing. You have to take the shipper's word for it that the shit's right.
That is true, Mike. Very true.
Then when you get to the receiver, oh, they're like, oh, well, we can't take this because it's not right. We can't. Well, that ain't my freaking problem. You're not allowing me on your dock while you're unloading it. So do you think the shipper allowed me on their dock while they was loading it?
Makes a lot of sense.
You know.
And that is true, right, Mike? Because before, you know, when you have a good dispatcher, the way we're supposed to run is, you know what, we're going to have a scheduled pickup. That's the way I ran most of my time, because with teams, you can't really be sitting, man. You got two guys in the truck, man, looking at each other. It's not going to go well very long. So to me, it had to keep going. You know, somebody drives, somebody sleeps. That was the way I thought it should go. So most of the time we have a load waiting for us after we deliver. Thank God, like, through years, you develop relationships. You work whether with a direct account or a reputable broker that has done you well. And you get to know your lane good enough to where you can have a reload waiting for you. But just like Mike says, when you run into issues because the customer is not happy with the amounts, with the condition, with the temperature, then what you're going to do with your reload waiting for you? So Mike has a very good point. We're not allowed to do what we used to do right now in some of these places.
Well, and this is why I wanted to talk about this topic as well, is because this is exactly why transparency is needed. I mean, if we don't have the right load information, how are we supposed to, quote these rates and be able to even, generate enough operational cost?
Well, see, that's the difference between a good broker and a crooked broker. A good, decent broker is going to be straightforward and
Right.
upfront about everything. A crooked little
Yep.
shyster snake in the grass is going to, try to stick it to you. And most drivers they'll just bend over and take it and go on down the road. And their favorite thing is when you call them up, well, it's going to be another $500. Well, man, that's all I got into it. I'm only making $50 my ass. You're making way more than $50 off this load, buddy. Don't even try that nonsense. That's all I got in it.
So let me finish this up. So, I ended up taking the load because I was holding the broker accountable for all of this. Because, like I mentioned, when I called on the load, he said it was 34 degrees. When I got the rate con, it showed 34 degrees on the rate con. And when I got to the shipper, they told me it was supposed to be set at 15 degrees and that I was going to have to sit there. And they even told me at the shipping office that they've had issues with previous loads, just like this, where their temp wasn't right. The other carrier's temps weren't right. And they had to, from the same broker.
Fuel stop, is that where it's going first?
Yeah.
That's because he's a little snake in the grass.
Right. And that's why I wanted to bring this up. And that's why I actually held them accountable. Because if we don't start holding ourselves accountable and others accountable, nothing's going to change.
I've come to the conclusion that the brokers have their little website where they can report carriers because they won't bow down and kiss their ass and do what they want.
And that's exactly what this broker did.
I think we need to start our own website and send it out to every carrier in the country, owner-operators, blast it everywhere. We'll start our own website to put these crooked little snakes in the grass on and blackball these damn brokers.
It's already been created. Pastime for a Change created Freight Slaughter.
Well, there's a difference between creating and using. We need to create something that's going to be freaking used instead of just sitting on our hands and talking about it.
Absolutely, Mike. Good job. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
I agree with you 100%.
That's the difference.
At the same, and the other thing is, if you're going to have something like that, you need to have something that has something to do with trucking. I mean, but we need to come up with something that carriers and owner operators are actually going to use and put it out there and start a list on these brokers like they do on everybody else. And maybe these little snakes will give up and go do something else, or maybe they'll start acting right and be more respectable.
Right. And so even with me taking the load, so I even got to the drop. I quoted the broker $2,300 to go from Henderson, Colorado over to Morrissey, Nebraska. It's only a little it was under 600 miles, a little over 600 miles with my deadhead. It's a good rate. But at the same time, that rate was determined off of the 34 degrees. I ended up still taking the load, got to the drop, and drove all night just to get to the drop for an 8 o'clock appointment the next day. Made it on time, even though I was held up at the shipper for 4 hours, 3.5, 4 hours, because the trailer had to pre-cool to 15 degrees or close to it. And once I got to the drop, you know, I was trying to deal with the broker, even tried to get a hold of the shipper the next morning because the broker wouldn't do anything. He even kept telling me, why didn't you just drop the load? Why should I drop the load when it's your screw up? And all you're trying to do is make me look like the bad guy, because that's still going to hurt the carrier authority. Me dropping the load's going to hurt the carrier authority just as much as me holding you accountable for doing your job. That's how I see it. I don't know how everybody else sees it, but that's how I see it.
He wanted you
And
to
like I
drop
said
the load
earlier,
so he could put a bunch of negative shit on his little blackball website because he's a little snake.
well, not only that, it makes, you know, it shows the shipper that I wasn't a reliable carrier as well, which looks bad on both the broker and myself. But at the same time, why should I look like the bad guy when it was all his misinformation that he was giving me?
And I don't understand like why this even had to be an issue. Most of the times, if there's a discrepancy between the triangle, right, between their customer, you, and the broker, I mean, it should be very, very easy to negotiate or to fix. I believe
Exactly.
I believe they always pass the extra cost to the consumer anyways. If you don't believe me, look at the price at your local supermarket. Are we saving money? Are things getting cheaper? No. Somebody's making money. So to
Exactly.
me, the best thing to do, me personally, the way I handle that, if I don't get a new Raycon stating the conditions of the load, if I don't get a new Raycon, I won't move, because the Raycon is your contract, and as long as you're fulfilling your obligation like you did on 34 degrees, the law will cover you. The insurance will support you. But if you're doing something different to the Raycon, now they have grounds to go after you. So be careful. Always have everything in writing. Record your emails, record your text messages, because they will turn on you and they will leave you holding the bag.
Yeah, all the conversations between me and the broker was through email. It's all in my email. I probably got over 70 emails with that broker for that load. But
Yeah,
also, go ahead.
And this is what I mean about teamwork. You see what I mean? I'm not a negative person. I have teamwork. I do have a good team most of my time when I do my loads. But unfortunately, somebody like Chris, right? He didn't have a good team working under this load. And unfortunately, sounds like Mike says, he was dealing with a snake as somebody that's supposed to be in his team. We're not saying that all brokers are snakes, because they're not. There's a lot of great brokers out there. And it takes time. It takes experience for us to find them. They're out there. Be careful.
Yeah. I mean, I even said in the beginning, it's not even all brokers. There's bad apples all over the industry, and it's not all of them. You know, and it's hardly rare whenever we do run into it. But occasionally it's going to happen. That's it's unevitable for it not to happen. But at the same time, if broker transparency was actually enforced, a lot of that would actually even go away as well.
Yeah, you know, just to clean up. Go ahead.
That and making them get rid of all this extra crap that they're putting in their contracts that ain't allowed to be in there to begin with. And, you know, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done with them. And I mean, if they enforced the regulations, a lot of this nonsense would stop.
It would. But so let me finish the story on the load. So when I got to the receiver the next day, they didn't even open up till 8 o'clock. And I even told the receiver, you know, what was going on. And I told her, you know, I'm not going to release this load until I get this situated. And I'm trying to get a hold of the shipper, all of this, right? Because the broker didn't want to communicate anymore after I took off with the load. And then not only that, you know, I wasn't even trying to hold the load hostage or anything. It was about an hour later, the unloaders actually came, knocked on the door and said that they were ready. And I told them, I haven't even got a hold of the broker, haven't got a hold of the shipper. And so we went and talked to their main manager at the receiver, you know, the female that I talked to when they opened up. And she took it upon herself to reach out to the shipper to find out what was going on. Long story short, I ended up getting my extra $400.
Well, that's good. That's good for you, but something could have gone very bad, right? A lot of times we get into a claim. A lot of times we get into a bad review. They blacklist us. They make us they make us look like we're the bad individual, the bad actor. But it actually takes what you did, to be proactive, to be persistent in what your rights are, and hold the line. Because if we don't hold the line, they're gonna think that it's okay to just continue to lie to us and to play this treacherous games with every carrier. Let me give you guys an example that happened to me this week of a good broker. So I do have an account in Tucson, and I did take a decent load going over there. And I looked at my Raycon, and it says shipper open 24 hours and receiver open until 4 p.m. So yeah, you know, traffic over here is bad. So I left around 10 when traffic was good. They loaded me pretty well. I even saw bad reviews on the shipper. But when I went up there, it was only 2 trucks. They loaded me within like 2 hours, 2.5 hours. So I did ask the guy, hey, why do you guys have so many reviews here at this plant? I was picking up minerals from like a mine. And he says, you know what? Because a lot of these carriers, they come here in the morning, and right here is first come, first serve. And obviously when you have 10 trucks, the truck number 6, 7, or 8, you know, they're gonna be waiting. That's why they put these reviews on there. And I say, you happen to show up when there's only 1 truck ahead of you, it's gonna go well for you. So guys, just be careful on these reviews too. Most of the time they're pretty good, but sometimes are deceiving. But I really appreciate everyone that takes the time to put a review in a place so we can get a little heads up of what we're going to see. The other thing, continuing with my story, is I went there, got loaded, ended up going to my shipper, and my arrival time was 1 p.m. So when I checked in, they were saying, oh, we stopped unloading at 12. And then, mind you, my pickup for my direct customer is only 3 blocks away. So I have to load. I have to pick up my reload because this is my own customer. So now I'm dealing with somebody that's not willing to unload me at 1 p.m. when my Raycon says 4. So sometimes the receivers are going to play games with you. Sometimes they want to leave early. Sometimes they're lazy. Sometimes they're going to flex on you and they're not going to do their job. So I had to make the phone call and say, you know what? Call the broker, says, you know what? Your customer over here, he don't want to unload me. He says they stop unloading at 12. What's going on? He says that you are wrong. And he says, well, let me make a few phone calls, right? Well, I know he was making a phone call to the owner of the company. But meanwhile, this manager saying, no, you're wasting your time. You better go. And then this is what I have to do, guys. And I don't know if you guys ever seen this or not, but I said, okay, I know whatever, you guys are still working. Obviously, you're in full-blown production. I'm willing to pay $60. I need to get unloaded. I need to go pick up my load. Either that or I'm going to drop your load over at my pickup and you guys come and get it whenever you have to. This is what I said. So the manager went and asked the workers. And he says, oh, yeah, somebody's willing to do it for $60. You know what? This is still going on while the broker's still on the phone. So they had me back up. They were unloading me. And now the manager that says that I was not going to be unloaded, he came back. And then he says, hey, my boss says that I need to return your $60. He says, why did you tell him? I said, what do you mean? I told him, I didn't tell your boss. I haven't talked to your boss. I'm simply relaying the events that are happening here at your plant and the behavior that I'm receiving from bringing this load at time. In fact, I already show you my Raycon. It says 4 p.m. I'm not making up stories. If you're getting in trouble, that's between you and your boss. As far as me, I told you I was going to give you $60. I gave you the $60. You're unloading me. We're good. He says, well, I just got in trouble. And I asked him, why are you in trouble? I said, because the broker called my boss and told them that we're charging you $60 to get unloaded. And I said, well, isn't that what's happening? So the broker called me and he says, don't give him any money. My Raycon is right. The owner is right, and you're right. That manager is not acting as a professional. You know what? They gave me my $60 back. That manager at the plant learned his lesson, and the workers got scolded. So I'm sharing my experience with you guys because this is what trucking looks like sometimes. It's not perfect, it's not beautiful, but there's a lot of treacherous events out there. That's what we're saying is not for everyone.
Exactly. And that story just proves my point. We hold them accountable. Things are going to change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But that's what's important, to hold those Raycons, those emails, because when it comes to a claim, they are going to back up, because when you call the insurance and telling them this is what's going on, everything that I'm doing is legal, everything is according to my Raycon, please do not accept this claim. And they will back you up. And they will go to court for you. So don't be afraid to hold your line as long as you're in the right.
Not to mention the BOLs as well. The BOLs actually override the Raycon. So like in my situation with the BOLs showing that 15 degrees, it overrides that 34 degrees on the Raycon. That's what they're
Yeah,
going to go by is the BOLs.
and even my BOL said till 3, so I was still within the schedule. So to me, all those details do matter, but I know you guys have a lot
Uh-huh.
of experience, so that's good. Anyways, I want to say hi to Wild Child. I know he's on here somewhere, so I want to say hi to him.
Yeah, he's over on my YouTube channel. But yeah, welcome in, Wild Child. I forgot to mention them earlier. We were trying to get the show going and get started on the topic.
Yeah, everybody's real quick about holding the truck driver or the trucking company accountable for this shit that goes on out here, but there's no accountability, you know, to the shipper. There's no accountability at the receiver, and there's no accountability with brokers.
Well, that's the thing. They're trying to push all of the liability onto the carrier or the independent owner operator.
So
That's
if
the
you're going to
problem.
put the liability on me, then I'm going to have my ass on that dock, standing at the back end of that trailer, and I'm going to be inspecting that shit and watch you while you load it.
Right.
And then when it gets over there to where it's going unloaded at, I'm going to be standing there at the back of the trailer, and I'm going to watch you and inspect the shit while you're unloading it.
Absolutely. And Mike has a very good point there. Let's turn it around, because for us, we're trusted to speak truth, right? Let's turn it on us carriers, on what Mike's touching, right? Mike is a professional. He's been out there for a while. He has integrity. He has reputation. And we just heard what he says. We know we're under like a sensitive load. We must ready to have a thermometer. We should be ready to go out there, get out of our bed or our seat, and go back there and make sure that the amounts are right. If the facility allows you to, you need to have a thermometer to pulp the product. You can look at the product to make sure that it's not bad, that it's not too green or too ripe. So you gotta do your due diligence. You can't just be in the truck and believe that everything's going normal. Sometimes these guys are brand new. Sometimes they will load you with the wrong stuff. Sometimes they will load you with the wrong temperature. Sometimes they will load you with less or more of the quantities. So a lot of times us carriers or truck drivers, we better pick it up. We better be on our toes, like Mike is suggesting. We better do our due diligence to make sure that whatever gets into that trailer that belongs to us now is properly done. So we have to be super active. And then once we have this product in the reefer, that product belongs to us until we unload at the receiver. So we got to make sure during transit that we're checking temperatures, checking fuel, we're checking, make sure to the back that the temperature's still holding on. And we got to make sure that when we have a temp recorder, there's not a lot of room for discrepancies with temperature. So Mike's absolutely right. We have to pick it up and make sure we babysit this product until we unload it.
You know, it's not that, you know, what's cheaper to go down to Harbor Freight or get online and buy you an infrared digital thermometer or a pulp thermometer that's digital where you can actually probe the product, you know, which is cheaper, going out and buying those two things or having a $50,000 claim on your insurance for a load or $100,000
more.
or 200,000, you know, what is that cheaper than going out and spending $200 on a thermometer and taking 20, 30, 40 and taking an hour to check the stuff while they're loading it. If they'll let you if they won't let you on the dock, when you pull away from the dock, you jump your ass up in there and you check some temperature, see if the stuff's right.
That's a great advice, Mike. I'll give you guys one example of what could have gone very wrong for me. I was working for this account, and they would give me 3 stops of seafood product into Missouri. 3 stops, and I was doing this every week. And one of the stops ordered shrimp all the time, and shrimp is not cheap. Shrimp is very expensive. But even though it was uncomfortable, it was cold, and I had to go in there and have piece count, this is what I did. And not only did I count it by piece, I took pictures of the product that I unloaded. And you know what? Once I did that run, and I was doing it for maybe like 6 months, one time with a new customer that they had me go and drop 180 boxes of shrimp. So a week went by and everything was good, right? And my customer called me and says, "Hey, Ignacio, over at that place, it seems like there were 20 boxes short of shrimp. Instead of you delivering 180 boxes of shrimp, they said they only received 160. Do you know anything about it?" You know what? It's nothing more beautiful than to say, wow, I am surprised that they're doing that, because look, I have pictures of why I unloaded, and in those pictures is their facility. In fact, there's a forklift driver right next to the picture, next to the pallets that they unloaded themselves. And I went back there and I double checked with the guy. Tell him I said that, and if you need me to send you this picture, I will do it. Never heard of them again. So this is the kind of stuff that goes on every day. So that's what I'm saying, or like Mike is saying, be prepared to do your due diligence. Be a professional. Make sure you pick up what you're told to pick up. Make sure you deliver what you need to be delivered, and make sure you check that everything's gonna go right with the paperwork. And if you can cover yourself, unfortunately nowadays, it's sad to say it, but if you can take pictures to have evidence, it's gonna save you someday. I know it shouldn't be this way, and I hate it myself, but you know what? Those pictures have saved me. I had another load that I delivered crossing into Mexico, and it was technology coming from Korea. And I delivered this, and 2 months down the line, they said, "Well, Ignacio, they said that you never delivered the load. Where did you go?" I did have the signature. I did have I knew I was at the right place. Again, I sent those pictures the same way. And you know what? Never heard of them again. So be careful, guys. I know we shouldn't be doing all that. It shouldn't be that complicated. But I don't know if you guys agree. Common sense is out the window. And so many people are scamming insurance companies. Now we're paying for it, right? So let's be proactive and stop all these scams, and let's do the best we can to hold people accountable.
That's it. You know, it's
Always
ridiculous.
keep documentation. And any loads that to where you have to do like a drop the trailer and they seal it and all of that to where you can't get into it, write it down on the BOLs, shipper, load, and count, along with seal, and put that the trailer was dropped right on the BOLs, and then have the shipper sign it. That backs you up.
No, there's a lot of things that can be done when you go to pick up a load or deliver a load, but too many people would much rather sit in their driver's seat or lay down in a sleeper and watch TikTok videos the entire time they're getting loaded or unloaded.
Very true, Mike. Very true. that
Yeah.
applies to all of us.
You know, and the other thing is
Yeah.
if a shipper says, "Oh, I got 17 cases that are damaged," okay, I want to see those cases, and if I'm paying for it, I want them 17 cases put back on my trailer. You ain't keeping something that I'm paying for. Sorry.
Absolutely.
Right.
And if you don't want to put it on the trailer, well, there's not gonna be such thing as 17 cases of damaged freight. It ain't happening.
And also too, I want to add something that, something was extreme, but it does happen. I have flatbeds and drive-ins and reefers, right? So I've gone to this place before, and when I went to pick up this load, I'm not gonna mention names today. I want to pick up this load in a farm, and when I was back there trying to see what they were loading, right? I like to check the product that I'm loading into my truck. Maybe you guys can remind me what the word is for marijuana. I don't know if it's what's the other word they use for marijuana here? Because I know some industry. Huh? No, there's
The other
another
term for marijuana is hemp.
hemp, exactly. It was hemp. And on the Raycon, it said it said industrial products. And when I went back there and I saw that it was hemp, I had already read an article of a guy being in prison for this. And he claimed to be innocent. Maybe me, like myself, if I didn't look back there what they were loading in my truck, I would have been innocent because I thought I was loading and transporting agricultural goods, right? But if I get stopped, if I get inspected, are they gonna believe that I'm innocent, or they're gonna believe that I'm into this ring of crossing states with hemp? When I saw that load, I called the broker and said, "What in the world are you trying to get me into?" This load was going into Colorado from California. Obviously, I was gonna cross lanes, state lines, I mean. And this is what can happen to any of us, right? So
Just Nevada, Arizona, and Utah. I mean, you'd have been fine once you hit Colorado.
oh yeah, but I don't know about you guys, but I would not touch that stuff because I get stopped often. Even if some people don't want to believe it, I get profiled all the time, get stopped. I already been stopped 3 times out here in Arizona, and it's hot over here in Arizona. Hey, you know what? When you have somebody that is decent, they might let you go. They might believe you. But just like this one guy that's been doing years in jail and his equipment repo, I don't want to play those games, to me, because the broker should have told me what I was hauling. And I would have said no from the get-go. So most of the times we believe, we trust the system, but that's where we have to be involved. Because if I would have taken this load and go through the 70, I don't know how it would have worked out for me. So I'm trying to tell you guys, be careful. Be careful, because this is a big broker. This is a big broker. So that's telling you that these guys are not even aware of what they want you to haul. So be careful on doing this, because some people can go to jail for not knowing what you're hauling. So be back there, make sure that what they're telling you that you're loading is what it is, like Mike is saying. And I'm just sharing my experience with you guys, because not only did they wanted to do it with my drive-in, they sent me to the same place with my flatbed. Now they were trying to do it with a flatbed. But I already remember the address, remember the place, and I called the broker. I said, "Man, what are you guys doing?" So just be careful, guys.
Yeah, you do have to be careful because they'll use other words to describe the loads. Just like with marijuana, the other popular term for it or the other name for it is hemp. Um, they'll use cannabis. Most people do know what cannabis is, so they really don't use that term. A lot of people think that hemp isn't always THC because hemp doesn't always have THC either. So if if the product doesn't have the THC, it's totally legal in all states to actually haul it. But if it once it has the THC into it, there's only certain states that you can haul it through. California, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, they're all states that's legal. Oregon, it's legal. Washington's legal. Montana's legal.
Idaho,
Idaho is not legal
right? So you gotta have a little outlaw panhandle.
because I even had a broker try to have me pick up at a farm down on the border of Mexico, New Mexico, and Arizona. And he was talking about it was, cannabis hemp. And I asked him if it had the THC. And the load was going to Oregon. Okay. And the route was actually going through Utah and Idaho. Well, you can't take it through Utah and Idaho because it's illegal. So I told him, well, I got to go the long way, which added like another 250, 300 miles going through, Arizona, California, and up into Oregon. And the broker didn't want to pay more on the mileage. He kept fighting me on the mileage. He's like, no, you could go through Idaho. I'm like, no, I live in Idaho. I know for a fact you cannot transport that crap through that state. I've known people that got pulled over that were out of state, had medical licenses, was out of state, just passing through the state to get to Washington to visit their family in Washington.
On the dash.
And he ended up getting pulled over and got put on probation for 2 years in Idaho. And they made him stay there in Idaho for the whole time, for his whole probation term. They tried to give him jail time, and his medical card actually saved him on that one. The judge actually threw it out and said, no, he's got a medical card, so we can overlook that side. But he said that he was going to have to do the probation, stay in Idaho, and finish out the probation term. So being a truck driver and hauling that stuff, they're going to pull your CDL.
And another thing that I want to share on here for educational purposes, I'm pretty sure most of you guys already know, but if you're new, a reefer or drive-in, remember this: altitude can hurt your product. You got to remember that altitude does matter with certain products. If you have a load of Frito-Lays or you have a load of popcorn and you're going through Flagstaff, it might affect your product. If you're going through the 70 across the Rockies, it might affect your product. A lot of these bags, they have a lot of pressure, and when you're in high altitude, they're going to pop open on you, and you might have a rejection once you get to your receiver. So make sure when you're pulling product in bags, make sure you remember this. Most of the companies will already recommend a route for you, so you need to balance your expenses and charge them accordingly, but you don't want to be held with a claim. Some of these bags will pop on you if you're driving through high altitude. Have you guys ever experienced anything like that?
Yeah, I actually just experienced it when I was in Arizona last week. There was a Pepsi load on the load board, and I called on, and Pepsi is Frito-Lay's. Frito-Lay's is part of Pepsi. Now, I don't know if it was, the chips, the Frito-Lay's, or the soda, because they even moved soda, Gatorade, all of that, and it still affects with altitude. They'll change the route. And they actually did have the route changed, but they didn't want to pay according to the route.
So
I've hauled soft drink up I-17 and all the way up to Salt Lake City and didn't have an issue.
Yeah, you won't always have an issue, but it's a possibility.
About
Yeah,
the only thing
I
that
know.
they make you take a different route is like potato chips and stuff like certain products, because they do things with the product now that you don't have to go all this way out of your way to avoid mountains. They can the pressure inside the can before it even leaves the factory.
This is what I did experience. I pulled a load of popcorn from the Midwest. I don't know if it was Minnesota or Iowa, and there was a few trucks there, and I already knew, but the shipper didn't reroute you. They didn't mention anything, but just by me having that experience, I took the longer route because I didn't want to find out. And once I got to the receiver, those 3 trucks ahead of me, they were already there, rejected, because those bags popped on them because they wanted to save fuel, and they went through the 70. So I seen it for myself that it does happen. So I believe somebody told me that glass, it does affect glass as well. Somebody that pulls glass, they told me that they have to do the same thing with glass, that it'll break with pressure. So I don't know if that is true or not, but I know the bags, I got to see it, and I learned, and I rather negotiate my rate before taking off, because I know what I'm going to do. I'm not going to risk having a claim on me, and I'm not going to save money just because I want to take the shortcut. I want to do what's right, and I'm not going to put that gambling on me. So I went around and I see it with my own eyes. So that's why I'm sharing it. It does happen.
Well, I mean, you can see that in your truck. Buy a bag of Doritos and lay it over there in the passenger seat when you're going down the interstate, running across I-70, running across I-80 in Wyoming, running up there in the mountains. Just throw that bag on that passenger seat and see what it does. When that bag's in that passenger seat, the same shit is going on inside that trailer.
That's true, Mike. Very true.
It happens.
I think
Those are the kinds.
Pop on me going through Wyoming.
Those are the
2
kind
liter
of things that
bottle.
people don't think of. You don't think about things like that.
Yeah, and we learn it. That's a very good point, Mike. And we learn it through others making that mistake. But we don't want to be the one. We don't want to be the one holding the bag with that claim. So make sure you read your instructions on the bill of lading or on the rate cards. Make sure you stay away from trouble, because it's very difficult out there to come clean as we continue to work year to year. So be careful. Another thing that I did experience, and that's why, in a way, I do believe that English proficiency language is important. I'll give you an example. I was coming across the 40, and I seen a team of brothers. I'm not even gonna mention nationality. It was just one of our brothers that was not speaking English well enough, and his truck was on fire. And I do carry 2 extra fire extinguishers. I do carry, a gallon of diesel. I do carry extra, part, whatever. I'm always stopping to see if I can help somebody out. So me seeing the early stages of a trailer catching fire on the brakes or on the tires, I stopped behind it, of course, with a distance. I jump out with my fire extinguisher, and I'm asking these guys, what is it in your truck? Because I see you have, the hazardous plates on it. And I did move hazardous, but it's been a long time that I did. I don't like to do it anymore because I've seen how bad it's gotten on the road. And I believe I can drive safely, but I'm not sure if the other drivers are going to. That's why I stopped doing it. So I don't remember. And because the adrenaline was high, I'm asking the driver, what do you have in there, just for me to know how long I can stay trying to help him out with this fire with my extinguisher. The guy is not understanding anything. And I'm asking him, please get the paper. You should have it on your door. And let me see what it is to see what we can do and how much we can do. Guy didn't understand anything I was saying. Anyways, you know what? In the process, because I had my nephew with me, because we were driving teams, I told my nephew, while I'm working on the flames here, disconnect the tractor away from the trailer just in case we can't do nothing about it. You know what? And while my nephew was doing this, disconnecting the tractor, at least to save the tractor and their belongings and them, I was working on the fire. You know what? Thank God. I didn't know what it was, but there was sand next to the trailer. And instead of using the extinguisher, I used the sand, and that worked. So we got to know what we're hauling. We got to know to put the paperwork on the door. We need to know what's going on, because if it was the first responders that got there and they don't know what you're hauling, and if you can communicate with them to save you, your equipment, and their lives, something's wrong. So this is how bad the industry is. And this is why I do understand some of the English proficiency language enforcement, because I experienced it myself with that event. So you got to know what you're hauling. I've seen at the scale houses, right? You pull in there to get
for the potholes, baby.
When you're in there buying like me, I also pulled oversized, buying a permit for the day, let's say, for example, and you spend a little time in there waiting for your permits, paying for them, and as well. And I've literally heard officers asking drivers, what is it that you pull in today? And they don't know. They don't know what's in their trailer. Not because it's sealed and they didn't load it. No, this is a load with no seal on the back. This is not a container they picked up from the harbor that's got a seal on it. No, this is regular trailers, drive-ins that we ourselves supposed to be witnesses, like Mike is saying, to see what they're putting in there, what they're actually doing with our trailer. So it's impressive to see how many people don't know what they're putting in their trucks. So especially hazardous material, make sure you stay alert, make sure you get engaged, and make sure you get ready just in case of some event happening to these team drivers that caught on fire. Make sure you get ready for those scenarios, because you're supposed to know. You're supposed to be able to communicate, especially with hazmat. I just want to share that as well, because that was a really bad experience.
We're already over an hour, so let's wrap this up. One thing I did want to add in, so that broker that I hold that load for, he did put a freight guard on me, put me on his do not use list, which that I don't even care about. I really don't even care about the freight guard, because at the same time, why do I want to do business with that broker again, or even that brokerage? If they're going to treat carriers that way, I don't want to deal with them.
Absolutely.
And with the freight guard, I mean, he discredited himself because when he filed the freight guard, he put it as anonymous. He put it as a anonymous post. So that ruins his credibility right there off the bat. He doesn't even have the guts to even say who he is, who he works for, or anything. Even though I know who it is, I ain't gonna name any names, not yet. But you know, the whole deal is he tried to make me responsible for the load, and then the very next morning he tried to make the shipper be responsible, saying that there was a miscommunication between him and the shipper on the 10th. Even though the night before he was trying to put it all on me. Never once mentioned that well there's a discrepancy in the 10th. And not only that, the shipping manager was there when I checked in at the shipper. The main guy that dealt with the broker and everything. And he's the one that told me that the temp was supposed to be at 15 degrees, not 34. And he even told me the broker knew that. Because they've been having loads go out of there with that same broker for the last 2 weeks. They've been having issues with them.
Sounds to me like they need to find somebody else,
Yeah.
because you can't miss a 1 and end up hitting a 3. They're not even next to each other on the keyboard.
Right. Now I will say this: there was several different loads that were at different tents. They had different loads at different tents, but at the same time, he was telling everybody 34 degrees, even when it was frozen loads. He was just going off of the same Raycon as all of the other loads, as all of the loads, instead of with some of the shipments being frozen and some being just refrigerated.
That's because he needs to go take an English proficiency test. He don't know how to read.
Yeah, I don't know. All the communication that I had with that broker was through email, so I never even talked to him once on the phone. It was all through email. But anyways, you guys got anything else to add?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, I would like to add that if you're new in the industry, if you're transition from a certain piece of equipment to another, educate yourself, learn from others, and be humble. And don't be afraid to ask. It's better to ask than to run into an event that you'll regret. Comes with flatbed, reefer, hazmat, doubles. You know, we all are. I'm 58 and I'm still learning. I still pay attention. I like people like you gentlemen, right? Been out there, went through a lot, went through the growing pains, and you're seasoned drivers. I know you guys are humble enough to know that you're still learning as well as me. So, if you don't know, ask. There's plenty of platforms. There's plenty of great people that are willing to teach you, that are willing to share their experiences with you. So stay humble and ask questions, especially if you're under transition to something new. There's no shame, and it's better to be humble and get the truth than to fake it till you make it.
Just have your wife on speed dial because the women know everything.
Let me add something to that. So that's exactly why we started an American Transportation Co-op. Bring everybody together. Bring the education to everybody, and hold it. Start holding people accountable. Hold ourselves accountable. Hold others accountable. We all can learn from one another. It takes a team to run a business. It takes a team to run an industry. Exactly why we started American Transportation Co-op. Go to our Facebook group, join up, join in the collaboration, the post, start asking questions if you have questions. If you have insight, throw your insight in there.
Definitely share any educational content.
Yeah, any educational content you got, share it. That's what the American Transportation Co-op is for. That's why we started it. It's why we started doing these lives every week, every Saturday, 4 o'clock Pacific, 5 o'clock Mountain Standard, 6 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock Eastern every Saturday.
You need the other lane, baby.
No, except for holidays. Holidays, if a holiday falls on a Saturday, we're not going to cover those shows because that's family time. Our family comes first. We put our families first, and we put our industry second. The industry is our second family.
Absolutely.
And don't be afraid to ask any questions. The only stupid question is one that isn't asked. You want to close us out, Ignacio?
Yeah, sure. Thank you guys. I respect you guys. Love you guys. You guys are awesome. Man, Mike, you really outdid yourself with that one. It's never a dull moment with you. Oh, man, this guy.
Hey, I
Yeah.
learned a long time ago, happy
Yeah.
wife, happy life. As long as you let her think she's right, you're good to go.
All right, man. Thank you for the laugh. Our Heavenly Father, we like to give you the praise and the glory for giving us the space to talk about the trucking industry, the challenges that we face. Father, thank you for allowing us to speak truth, to share what we learn, whether it's bad or good, but to better the industry as a whole, Father. Continue to keep us humble, continue to let us be courageous, to love our brothers and sisters instead of criticizing them. So help us, give us the heart of knowledge to educate as many as we can. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, guys. Good day.
Amen. Everybody have a good night. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.